Everything you see around you, the mountains, the valleys, the very bedrock of our continents, feels ancient and permanent. But a fringe theory, popular in the deep corners of the internet, suggests that you might be looking at a lie. What if the Grand Canyon wasn't carved by a river, but was actually an ancient strip mine? What if the world's largest mountain ranges are just the colossal waste piles of an ancient industrial operation? And what if we are living on the scraps of a civilization that mined our planet dry and then vanished? The history we're taught tells us we're the pinnacle of intelligent life on this planet. But this radical idea, known as the exhausted quarry hypothesis, suggests the truth may be far more humbling. It claims the evidence is buried right beneath our feet, so in this video we're going to dig into the theory and see if it holds up. Our first stop is Baalbek, Lebanon, home to a magnificent Roman temple complex. It's a marvel of classical architecture, but beneath the Roman columns lies the real mystery, the temple platform. This foundation contains 3 colossal stones known as the trilithon, each estimated to weigh a staggering 750 to 800 tons. That's like 500 cars carved into a single block and placed with breathtaking precision. Nearby in the quarry lies an even bigger, unfinished monolith, estimated at over 1,000 tons. Mainstream archaeology explains that Roman engineers, with vast manpower and ingenuity, accomplished this feat, although it was unique in its scale across their empire. Proponents of the exhausted quarry theory ask a provocative question. What if the Romans didn't build the platform at all? What if they just built on top of a much older foundation, left behind by a civilization so advanced we can't explain their methods? However, archaeologists point out that the site had been a sacred place for millennia, used by Phoenicians and Hellenistic cultures before the Romans arrived. The Romans simply continued building on an already important site. The unfinished monolith in the quarry isn't necessarily a sign of impossible technology. Instead, it's seen by experts as evidence of the quarrying process itself, a project perhaps abandoned when it cracked or became too ambitious. Now, let's travel to Cappadocia, Turkey. In 1963, a man renovating his home knocked down a wall and stumbled upon something incredible: the ancient, multi-level underground city of Derinkuyu. This was no simple cave. It was a metropolis plunging as deep as 85 meters into the earth, capable of housing up to 20,000 people with their livestock and supplies. It had ventilation shafts, wells, stables, churches, and massive stone doors to seal it from invaders. The accepted history is that Derinkuyu was likely started by the Phrygians, or even the Hittites, and was expanded over centuries, particularly by early Christians seeking refuge. The exhausted quarry theory offers a different take. What if this wasn't a refuge, but purpose-built housing for a massive workforce of ancient miners? However, the idea of carving 18 stories into rock with ancient tools isn't as impossible as it sounds. The volcanic tuff rock in Cappadocia is surprisingly soft and easy to work. The staggering scale of Derinkuyu wasn't the result of a single rushed project, but rather the accumulated work of many generations improving their home and fortress. It stands as a testament to long-term human ingenuity, not a lost super-civilization. We're starting to see that history is a puzzle with many pieces. If you're the kind of person who loves to examine fascinating theories and separate fact from fiction, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss where the evidence leads us next. Our final exhibit isn't carved in stone, but in stories. Many ancient cultures have myths of a time before our own, an age of powerful beings. The Greeks had their titans, and the Hopi traditions of North America tell of their ancestors being led to safety underground by ant people to survive cataclysms. From Hindu tales of realms beneath the earth's crust to Sumerian gods of the underworld, a common thread emerges: powerful beings and vast realms existing below our own. The quarry hypothesis suggests these are not just myths, but distorted memories of a real subterranean civilization. But is that evidence? While it's a compelling idea, anthropologists and historians see these stories as powerful cultural narratives created to explain the world. The concept of an underworld, for example, could easily arise from the universal human experiences of caves, springs, and burial. To claim these shared themes are proof of a single historical event is a leap that lacks concrete evidence. Individually, these are fascinating puzzles. When viewed through the lens of the exhausted quarry theory, they seem to snap together into a single startling pattern. A temple built on impossible stones, a city of unimaginable scale deep underground, and myths of underworld beings all seem to point to one conclusion. The mainstream explanations, while supported by evidence, can feel less sensational. They ask us to believe that the Romans performed an unparalleled feat of engineering at Baalbek, that generations of people carved derinkuyu from soft rock, and that global myths are just a coincidence of the human imagination. But what if the exhausted quarry theory connects these dots only by ignoring the scientific details? What if the neatness of the theory is its biggest flaw? The exhausted quarry hypothesis reframes our world. Baalbek's stones become industrial leftovers. Derinkuyu becomes miner housing. The Grand Canyon? Not a work of natural erosion, but the scar from a planetary-scale excavation. Mountain ranges become spoil heaps. This is where the theory collides with mountains of scientific evidence. Geologists have shown conclusively that the Grand Canyon was carved by the Colorado River over millions of years, a process driven by geological uplift and erosion. The idea that it's a mine with right angles ignores the fractal complexity of natural erosion. The theory also misrepresents a scientific thought experiment called the Silurian hypothesis. In 2018, two scientists asked, if an industrial civilization existed millions of years ago, what evidence would remain? They concluded that direct evidence like cities would be long gone, but we might find indirect traces like chemical anomalies in the geological record. The quarry theory wrongly applies this to a recent prehistoric era, a time from which we have abundant geological and fossil records that show no signs of such a civilization. The idea of Earth as an exhausted quarry is radical and unsettling. It's a fantastic story that weaves together disparate mysteries with a chilling neatness. But it is, at its core, speculation. To accept it, one has to dismiss entire fields of science, geology, archaeology, and history, in favor of a narrative that, while compelling, lacks verifiable proof. Perhaps the real awe-inspiring story isn't one of forgotten giants, but of our own ancestors. It's the story of Roman engineers pushing the limits of their technology, of persecuted communities carving a 20,000-person metropolis into the earth for safety, and of the relentless power of a river to sculpt a canyon over millions of years. The truth, grounded in evidence, may not be as fantastical as a lost civilization, but the story of human ingenuity and natural wonder it tells is no less incredible.